afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making your time out this afternoon to spend at least 2 hours of your precious time to be with us. I'm so happy that you can be with us today. And before I continue, let me inform you, this is the webinar Kecemerlangan SPM organized by Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak 2021. And today's webinar will be focusing on the new SPM format for the 2206 English literature paper. And I'm so glad and happy that Madam Gladys, our presenter for today, will be sharing with us on the approaches and strategies in tackling the SPM paper that you'll be sitting for next year. So without further ado, I would like to say a big thank you and welcome and good afternoon to the officers and teachers wherever you may be, especially the officers from the state, Sarawak State Education Department, the Kuching District Education Department, teachers maybe from all over Malaysia and specifically in Sarawak, and as well as students who are sitting for the English literature paper. So let me introduce our presenter for today. She is none other than Madam Gladys Francis Jones. She is the school improvement specialist coach from the Bangsa Pudu District Education Office in Kuala Lumpur, and she's a very, very experienced teacher, especially in the field of English literature. So welcome, Madam Gladys, for giving your time and your precious and all your expertise on English literature with us. Thank you so much for graciously accepting our invitation to share with us and helping us, as this is a new format and we are not familiar with it. And before I continue, I would like to now hand over to my fellow moderator, Mr. Gilbert Chung.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the officers, to Madam Gladys, and then to my partner for moderating this afternoon, Madam Patricia, and then also especially to students who are joining us here through YouTube, and all of you, especially students taking literature 2206 for next year 2021, should be 2021 SPM. All of you, you are really, really privileged, and even for us teachers, we are privileged to have Madam Gladys with us, and she is an amazing lady, amazing teacher, especially when it comes to literature. And then those of you joining in, you will have an amazing time listening and watching her sharing her thoughts and techniques maybe along the way. And I hope all of you will be learning. And then our sessions will be divided into different genres, different sections. As you know, we have the prose, we have the poems, we have the drama. So after every session, students do have questions ready, because after every session, we will have a short, quick Q&A, right? So whatever questions that you have, please do ask, and then take this opportunity to ask Madam Gladys. And then whatever problems or challenges that you have will be solved by Madam Gladys. So without further ado, I will pass the baton to Madam Gladys for our session this afternoon. Madam Gladys.
Thank you, Miss Patricia and Mr. Gilbert. Indeed, I would like to say that I am the one who is privileged, and I'm honored and humbled to be invited by the Sarawak Education Department for this session. And I hope that whatever I'm sharing today will be beneficial to all who are attending the session, because I believe that whatever knowledge that one has to share it, one should share it, because that is the way we give back to community what we have been privileged to have. So students of SMK St. Mary and SMK Green Road, I hope that you will be active and you will ask questions if you're unclear about anything, and I will definitely attend to it and I hope that I will be able to give you all some tips which you can take back home and you can try for your paper. Okay, now I do not wish to waste any more time. Let us go on to our workshop, okay, for today. Okay, let's look at the exam paper. Okay, this is your exam paper, your SPM 2206 literature paper. You have 3 sections. You have prose, drama, and poetry. Okay, for prose, you have 4 questions. Okay, what are the 4 questions? You have question 1, you have short story A and short story B. Question 2, you have short story C and short story D, which means that out of the 6 short stories that you are currently doing, for those of you who are doing the short stories, you get 4 stories will be coming out for the exam. So you get a choice between question 1 and question 2. Now, question 3 will be on the clay marble, and question 4 will be on the Lost King, for those of you who are doing the Lost King, because I understand that some of you here are doing the Lost King. Okay, but wait, it is not just one question. Although you are answering one question, that one question will be divided into 2 parts. So you will have extract-based essay and you will have an open essay. Okay, for the first part. Now, which means for those of you who are doing short stories, short story A will be an extract-based question, while short story B will be an open essay. The same thing goes for question 2, short story C and D. However, for the clay marble, both the questions, which is the extract-based question and open essay, will both be on the clay marble. The same thing goes for the prose section. Now let's go on to section B, where we have 3 questions. That is, question 5 will be on Flowers for Algernon, question 6 will be Hope Springs, and question 7 will be Merchant of Venice. Okay, so out of these 3 questions, you choose one, and just like the prose section, you have an extract-based essay which carries 15 marks, and you have an open essay which carries 20 marks. Okay, so if you choose Merchant of Venice, you will be answering an extract-based question and an open essay. So which means that every question has 2 parts. Now let's go on to section C. Now section C for poetry, okay, you have 2 questions. You have question 8, poem A and poem B. Question 9, poem C and poem D. Now you get to choose which question you want to do. So which means that there will be 4 poems which will be coming out of the 10 poems that you do. So let's say you choose question 8. Okay, you will have to answer question A and question B, and both the questions will be carry 15 marks. Sorry, there's a bit of error here. This is 15 marks. Both questions will carry 15 marks. And you will have to answer on 2 different poems. Okay, if poem A is on Daffodils, poem B may be on the tiger, for example. Okay, it will not be the same. But the good thing about this is that the entire poem will be given. For those of you who are wondering whether you need to memorize and so on, and no, the entire poem will be given. It's like an extract-based essay because you base it on the poem. Okay, so that's for section C of poetry. Now let's move on. Okay, we go on to poetry section. Okay, I shall start with the poetry section because that is where for both schools, I understand that there is no choice as that, because all 10 poems are what all schools are supposed to cover. Now, like anything that you do, okay, like anything that you do for any subject, you have to have a good understanding. And in this case, you have to have a good understanding of the poem. Okay, you have to know what is happening in the poem. A poem may not be a story, but still there is something that is happening there. You need to know the poem well and know what is happening in the poem. Is there a development in the poem? Sometimes poems have development, and sometimes they have different ideas in each stanza. And then these stanzas, the different ideas lead to a theme or a message. So you need to identify that. And you have to think, what is the purpose of the poet writing the poem? There is a reason. There is a message which he wants to put across to the readers. Okay, so what is the purpose? And the last stanza is very, very important, because usually it is in the last stanza that the poet sums up the message, or what is the purpose that he has is usually captured in the last stanza. Okay, now let's take Daffodils, for example. Going back to what I mentioned just now, let's take Daffodils for example. You have the poem moving from the persona being lonely. Okay, he is lonely in the beginning of the poem. And at the end of the poem, you find that he doesn't feel loneliness anymore because of his experience. So this is the development that has taken place from stanza 1 to stanza 2. And you need to understand that when you study the poem. Okay, example, first stanza, he's lonely. Second stanza, he comes across the daffodils and it's an overwhelming sight. And then he forms a connection. He forms a connection with the daffodils in the next stanzas. And finally, and the last stanza, this experience remains with him forever. And whenever he is alone, this experience comes back to him. Okay, and he does not feel alone anymore. Now, whenever you want to quote what is, that he is feeling lonely, you need evidence, and these are the evidence that you need to quote. Okay, overwhelming sight, golden daffodils, the beauty, 10,000 saw I at a glance. So you have 10,000 daffodils there. Okay, and then he makes a connection. How does he make a connection here? You have, he says, could not but be gay in such jocund company. So there is a connection that has been made between him and the daffodils. Okay, so and finally you have these as the evidence to show that his heart dances with the daffodils. Okay, so it remains forever, this experience, so he does not feel lonely anymore. Now this may be a simple poem, but you find that there is a kind of development that takes place in the poem. And this is the development that you need to identify. Okay, let's go to autumn, for example. The first stanza. Now, autumn carries with it a different idea. Each stanza captures a different idea or element about autumn itself. So, you have the first stanza about abundance, and the second stanza talks about harvesting, about storage of what has been produced. And the third stanza, you have the end of the season. And finally, you find that after the third stanza, you find that the cycle continues. This is the idea. It's not a stanza, but it's an idea that the cycle continues, that after this, another season will come. So what if it's the end? It is a cycle, okay? And you find that you find evidence for all these ideas, okay? Of course, how do you get the idea? You get the idea from the words that are in the poem. Okay, idea of abundance, load and bless. Okay, idea of here in the second stanza, you have the autumn being personified, and then you have the end. Autumn comes to an end, and finally seasons. You have the cycle of seasons and migration of birds. So through these two poems, I've actually shown you how sometimes a poem can have a development, but sometimes the poem might contain different aspects or different ideas, which put together, you have something, there is a message from the poem. Okay, so this is what you need to do for all the 10 poems that you are doing for SPM. You have to identify this. Okay, time does not permit me to go through all the poems, but I will go through one poem now, which is the Minus. Okay, we are going to look at how to answer a question which is based on a poem. Okay, now this is the question, a sample question, the kind of question you will probably have for the exam. Explore the ways in which the poet uses words and images to striking effects. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is to identify keywords in the question. Okay, because at the end of the day, for every essay that you write, what you have to focus on and what should be at the back of your mind is, have I answered the question? That is the most important thing. Okay, so identify the keywords in the question. I have highlighted it for you. I've used different colors. Explore the ways and words and images and striking effects. So in your essay, these are the words that you need to pay attention to. Okay, now, when you say explore the ways, what is meant by explore the ways? It is how. How does the writer present, use the words and images to striking effects? So we are talking about writer's effects. And then we go on to, when you want to show how, you have evidence, as I showed you evidence in the two poems earlier. So you need to identify words and images used in the poem. Okay, and then what you need to do is, what are the effects of this? It is not enough for you to say the poet has used personification. So what the poet has used personification, well done, you have identified its personification, but it is not enough. You have to talk about, why did the poet use personification? What is the effect of this? Okay, and finally, what message is the poet putting across to the readers? So when you are given a question like this is how you need to understand the question. Okay, what is wanted of you? Now we go on. Okay, let's look at the minus. We are going to answer the question based on the poem The Minus by Wilfred Owen. Now, in order to answer the question, you have to understand the main ideas in each of the stanzas. Okay, what are the main ideas in each of the stanzas? What is the message or the theme in the poem? And which are the relevant words and phrases? Okay, so this is something that you need to do. So let's look at the main idea for each stanza in this poem. Stanza 1 and 2, basically the persona imagines the coal whispering the beginnings of Earth's history and its formation. That's what stanza 1 and 2 are about. In stanza 3, okay, we get to know that coal was created over many years under intense heat and pressure long before civilization. Okay, so we get to know that. But in stanza 4, but, the word but itself, the coal's murmuring was about coal mines. It was not about history as such. It was a history in the sense that how, the plants died and over the years. It was not murmuring about that. It was murmuring about the coal mines and the suffering of the miners. Okay, so in stanza 4, we have established that, the suffering of the miners. Now we go on to stanza 5. Okay, the poet goes on to talk about many miners who died in the process of mining, but few remember them. Okay, and in stanza 6, the death of the miners is similar to those soldiers who also died suffocating in the trenches during war. So in stanza 5, the focus is on miners. But in stanza 6, the poet talks about soldiers as well. Okay, during that time when, trenches were built, they too died suffocating because of the gas that was used during war. Okay, and finally, stanza 7 and 8. Okay, we have something for us readers to reflect on. Okay, people enjoy the comfort of a warm fire in their cozy rooms without remembering those who died. If you look at this poem, the last 2 lines of this poem actually captures this idea about we who do not remember, about these people being forgotten. So, as I mentioned to you, usually the last stanza captures the message, and this is the message that the poet is putting across to us. So why do you need to know what is the main idea or what is the stanza about? Because by knowing Okay, by knowing what the stanza is about, you get to know the main points. Okay, you get to know the main ideas, and with the main ideas, you can form your paragraphs. Now, for every stanza, it is important for you to know what are the related quotes. Okay, most of the time it is the same quote that is used. So try, and the good thing about doing for poetry is that because the entire poem is going to come out and the words are there, what you have to do is you have to find out the meanings of the words, and what are the poetic devices used, what is the effect. So basically it is knowing that and adjusting or adapting what knowledge you have to answer the question. So in that way, I think poetry is a section which is very, very manageable. Okay, so stanza 1 and 2, these are the important quotes. Stanza 3, you have the stanza 4, this stanza 5, 6, 7, and 8. I shall not go through them, okay, to the meaning and all that. I'm sure you all have done it with your teachers, okay? But basically, this is how you choose your quotes, okay? You choose your quotes for the question. Okay, now you look at the organization of the essay. Now, this is something which I have introduced to my students. I call it petal. Okay, why petal? When you are organizing your paragraph, P stands for point, E stands for evidence, T stands for techniques, A stands for analyze, and L stands for link. Okay, so you have a petal here. Now this is, you can organize your paragraph according to point, evidence, techniques, analysis, where you analyze and with the link. Or what you could do is that you may have your own style of writing. Okay, you may write it in according to the style that you have. Please don't get worried. Oh, must I organize it this way? I've got my own style. It's fine to have your own style. In fact, as literature students, you will have your own way of presenting your points. But what I would like you all to do is that use this petal. If you do not organize your essay this way, use this petal as a checklist. Okay, after writing your paragraph, see that you have a point that you have made. See that you have enough evidence. For poetry, evidence would be the words and phrases. Look at whether you have techniques. Now, this is what most students leave out. Okay, they leave out techniques. Okay, they leave out techniques. That's the reason why I feel that you need to have this as a checklist. And this analysis, or where you analyze, is very important, because you don't just explain the lines. You need to analyze. This is with your assessment objectives, your AO1, AO2, AO3, and AO4. Okay, you need to analyze. And finally, link. Link here is to your personal experience or what you know that is happening around. Okay, so you use petal. Now, let's look at the introduction. Give a brief summary of the poem and answer the question. Paragraph 1, point 1. Okay, organize using petal. Paragraph 2, point 2. Connect first to the paragraph, that you have to show that paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 are connected, and you have point 2, and you organize using petal. And finally, you have conclusion, where you reaffirm what was discussed, and then you have your views and personalization. Okay, anyone can explain, right? But without an example, it's very difficult for you to see what I'm talking about. So here, I have an example for you. This is from a student, okay? Explore the ways in which the poet uses words and images to striking effects. Okay, an example of an introduction would be like this. Wilfred Owen wrote the poem Miners to tell the story behind coal mining and honor the people who sacrificed their lives. So what is in blue is basically the summary of the poem. And what is in black is answering of the question. Owen uses words and images to create engagement and empathy in the reader. Why answer the question in the introduction itself? It is because when you know in the introduction itself what you are going to write about, what your essay is going to be, you already have your thoughts planned. You already have the ideas on what you're going to write. So it is important for you, when you are writing your introduction, to have a direction that you are going. Not just start writing and then it's not going to be organized, and you may end up going all over the place and places all over, and not answer the question. Okay, so that's the reason why I suggest that in the introduction itself, you answer the question. Okay, so in paragraph 1, okay, the first 4 stanzas of the poem describe the formation of coal and all the suffering that was endured. So this is the point of paragraph 1. So you need to, whatever evidence that you have, whatever analysis that you do, you need to actually come to this about the suffering and about the formation of coal. And this is based on the 4 stanzas. Okay, so you have your evidence, you have your techniques, and you have your analysis. Now, I have color-coded it to make it easier for you to see. What you have in purple, coal is said to be whispering to the persona from the fireplace. Besides whispering, coal sighs and is wistful. If you notice, whatever that is in purple is the evidence. Okay, it's exactly taken from the poem itself. And I would like you to pay attention how you can actually embed the evidence in your sentence. Okay, instead of saying this word proves this or this word is personification. Okay, instead of writing like that, you can embed it. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that way, you are so used to the writing down, this is the proof and all that, carry on, go ahead with it. It's nothing wrong about it. It's just that this is a better way of writing it. Okay, now these are human actions and feelings. Personification is used here to convey the sad feeling. So what you have in orange is the technique. Okay, and what you have in blue is the analysis. Okay, so you have that purple, you have evidence, techniques, analysis, you have all that. And finally comes the link. That is, as readers, we are given a new understanding of coal and awareness of the sacrifices involved. Okay, if you notice, this link has got to do with the formation of coal. It has got to do with the suffering that has been endured. And if you look at the evidence, everything points to what you have written as the point. So you have a paragraph which is packed with evidence and analysis, and you have mentioned the techniques. Okay, and if you look at the analysis, it's not just about saying that the coal is talking to the persona. It's going deeper. Okay, it goes deeper to have a deeper understanding of what is being mentioned. Okay, so that is paragraph 1. Now, paragraph 2, this is the point. The close link between coal and death, miners and soldiers, is explored in the following stanzas. So paragraph 2 will talk about the kind of death the miners have as well as the soldiers. So you have evidence here. Okay, some of the evidence taken. You find out what is the technique. You do the analysis. Link is basically the effect on the reader. Paragraph 2 is going to be on that. I'm not going to give you the exact paragraph, but I'm just going to show you how the points are related. Okay, paragraph 3. Owen then emphasizes that the comfort we enjoy is the result of the death of ours. This is actually the last 2 stanzas. Okay, so the last 2 stanzas, we talked about the last 2 stanzas, what idea they have. And that idea is put as a point in this paragraph. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not prescribing that you have to have 3 paragraphs. Sometimes you may be able to write the essay with 2 body paragraphs, of course, excluding introduction and conclusion. Okay, you may want to write 3 paragraphs, but I would not recommend you to have like 5 body paragraphs, for instance, because then it becomes very short paragraphs, and there is this tendency to repeat when you have too many paragraphs. Okay, so I would suggest that 2 to 3 body paragraphs would be ideal. Okay, and then these are the evidence that you have, the technique and analysis, and this is the link. While we enjoy the comforts in our life, we forget the sacrifices that others have made in order for us to get these comforts. So this is your personalization, okay, your assessment objective 4 in the paragraph. So you can see every paragraph fulfills your assessment criteria, okay, the assessment criteria for your exam. Now comes the conclusion. Okay, this is a suggested conclusion. Okay, this is a suggested conclusion for the poem, the minus. Okay, so basically this is how the entire essay is going to look like for poetry. Okay, now we come to Q&A on poetry. Over to you, Miss Patricia and Mr. Gilbert, for questions on the section on poetry.
Yeah. I have one question. I was wondering, when you mentioned about 4 paragraphs, is it minimum 4 paragraphs, or is it 2 to 3 paragraphs for the body? And then you have introduction and conclusion. Is that the...
Yes. When I talk about paragraph, I'm basically talking about the body paragraphs. Okay. So introduction and conclusion. So if you look at it, including introduction and conclusion, then we are looking at 5 paragraphs. So introduction, conclusion, and 3 body paragraphs. Yes.
All right. So minimum...
I have one question. Yeah, just one question. Will students be penalized if they don't include personalization?
You see, personalization is part of the assessment objectives. Okay, let's say the students do not include it in their in every paragraph, but they include it in the conclusion. It has to be somewhere. It may not be in every paragraph, but it must appear, because it is an assessment objective, AO4. Some students may not want to do it for every paragraph, but it is there for some paragraphs, or they may just do it, write their personalization, but write it well for the conclusion. Okay, but why I suggest that you write it for the paragraphs is that when you write the personalization, you sort of tie up the paragraph neatly, and the student actually goes back, ensures that the student is with the paragraph. What is the main point? Because the personalization links with the main point.
So this personalization is actually just personal response, right? Because
yes, that's your AO4, assessment objective 4. Yes.
So they must be able to give their personal response to each of the paragraphs. Yeah.
As I said, it is not must, but it is something that it will be good if they can, so that they do not forget about it, because it's part of the assessment objective. But it will not be penalized. It's not like they are looking out for with a checklist, how many have you got, it's not like that. It's an overall kind of impression about answering the question. Okay, so the personalization may not appear in every paragraph, but it should be there in the essay.
All right.
So basically, the most standard number of paragraphs should be around 4. And then another one is, sometimes students will ask me, teacher, how many words do I have to write? Is it taken into consideration as well?
No, but we are not looking at words. It's about whether they have answered the question.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Any questions from the students?
Students out there, any questions that you would like to ask?
You have any questions? Maybe they're overwhelmed.
Am I?
Maybe they are trying to digest.
Madam, you have made it very, very concise, and I as a teacher, I really understand.
I hope I'm not going too fast, because I keep looking at the time.
No, actually, one teacher was asking me, are they able to? Is it going to be uploaded permanently on YouTube? And I told them yes. So she was like quite happy that she will be able to watch it back. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, there's one question by Brandon Chia. Madam, are there poems we should give extra focus on, or likely to be questioned?
Okay, this is the usual thing. Are there any tips? No, this is our first year. Usually when it's the second year, we think, these 4 have come out, so we have the other 4.
Elimination process.
Yes, but this is the first year, so it's kind of difficult. No, I'm not spotting. Brandon.
Quite unfortunate, Brandon, that 2206 paper is the first time So we are unable to actually like give you tips on like what will be tested. Yeah. So
Yes, true. Okay.
okay, if there's no more question, then maybe Madam Gladys, we move on to the next genre. Yeah.
Yes, sure. Okay, we'll go on.
Yeah.
Let's proceed. Okay, now we are going to go to this to prose. Okay, the next section, which is prose. So we'll be looking at general prose strategies. Again, if that was for poetry, it's about knowing your poems. This is about knowing your text. Okay, you need to know your text. Okay, you really need to know your text. And when it comes to your text, okay, you need to know your plot well. Okay, and when we are talking about plot, it is important for you to know what is the climax of the plot. Okay, and when we talk about climax, we are talking about a change or a conflict to be solved. Okay, when it reaches a point where it has to be solved. So why do you need to know what is the climax? Because we know that after this, things will be resolved, because usually there is a problem that needs to be solved in a story. Okay, and if you are looking at short stories, we find that short stories, because you do not have that number of chapters, sometimes what you consider as the climax is towards the end, and very fast after the climax, a resolution takes place. Okay, everything falls into place. Okay, unlike for a novel, it may take longer. But whatever it is, basically we are looking at these elements. Exposition, we are introduced to the story, and then you have rising action. You have a lot of conflicts taking place during this time. Okay, and if you like, let's say for example, if you look at The Lost King, the conflict that takes place is all these arguments between the kids, okay, Peter King and Sully, and all these arguments. You have Beth and so on. So that is your rising action. Okay, and then comes your climax. The conflict comes to a head. Okay, take action to deal with it. So for every short story, or even the novel The Lost King, you have to decide which is the climax. Where is it that there is like enough of this, and something happens which causes things to go in a different direction. Okay, and that's when you have the falling action, and events follow on from the climax. Okay, so that then it leads to the resolution. Okay, so the disturbance is resolved in some way. It can be happily or unhappily. Alternatively, the story may be left unresolved. That is a cliffhanger. Now, if you look at The Lost King, okay, some of you may think you may not agree with your friends. Okay, your friends may say the part where Emily gets hurt is the climax. Okay, you may not agree. You may think something else is the climax. It is fine to have different ideas about the climax, but you need to understand what happens after. You need to understand what happens before, and the changes that take place. And this helps you to focus as well for your extract-based essay, and for you to understand the story better. Okay, if you are looking at the climax for Embracing Your Shadow, for instance, for those of you who are doing the short story, okay, Embracing Your Shadow, where is the climax? Okay, is the climax where he accepts the shadow as part and parcel of his life? Is the divorce the climax? Where is the climax? You will have to think about it. It's perhaps something that you all can discuss in class. Okay, and because this sort of helps you to have a deeper understanding about the plot itself, okay, and the resolution that takes place. Okay, when you have questions for prose, you have questions which are focused on theme. Sometimes they are focused on character, and sometimes it's focused on language. Okay, but when we are talking about something that is focused on theme, definitely we need to bring in the character as well. But the focus is on theme. Okay, I will explain what I mean by this. Okay, let's look at extract-based question. Now, when you have an extract-based question, the theme is reflected in the text to explore. That little bit that is given to you, there may be a theme there. Okay. Now, what you need to do is focus only on what is given there. You don't bring elements of the theme which are outside the extract. Okay. So in this case, focus on finding examples of this theme to write about only from the extract. Now, if you're looking at an open question, choose examples and evidence on the theme from the entire story or novel. Okay. And when you are choosing that, you need to look at how does language support the theme. This is your writer's techniques. Do images or individual words suggest a theme? Again, has got to do with techniques. How does the content support the theme? Okay, this has got to do with the plot. Now, which events help to develop the ideas in the text? Okay, events, we are looking at plot as well. How do the characters represent the theme? Okay, so of course here we are looking at characterization. Okay, so now all these, definitely you will have, language and characters in the extract, but you know that the question is a theme-based question and it's a theme-focused question. Okay, now I'll show you an example from Sambal without anchovies. Okay, this is just a little excerpt from that to show you how it is a theme. The theme is the focus here. Okay, for example, now, it depends on the question again. It depends on the question. Now, if you look at this, I have highlighted certain words. Okay, in this extract, you have Nora noticed that Hanif getting more and more determined to impose his ideas, and Pak Samad is resistant to the idea, and we get direct speech. We know you need to know the narrative voice as well. Who is telling the story? Okay, who is basically the storyteller? You have the first person narrative, you have the third person narrative. Because of the short length of time for this session, I'm focusing more into answering the question. I'm not going into all the details, but when you are doing prose, you need to know who the narrative voice itself. So in this, you find that it is actually the third person narrative voice, but you find it is limited more. We get more understanding about Hanif, but we also get to know about what Nora thinks and what Pak Samad is thinking. So when we want to know directly what each character is thinking, usually the writer gives us direct speech because we get to hear, we get to know their thoughts directly and form our own conclusion. So you have this exchange between father and son. He says it's a waste of money, it's throwing money away. And, the father says banana leaves are not expensive. Every cent saved is a cent gain. And then, you have this argument between them. Okay. Now, let's look at the analysis of it. Okay. This is an analysis, how you analyze an extract like that. The author creates a tense situation in the extract. The tension is created due to Hanif trying to impose his ideas on his father, who is resistant to the idea. The use of the word impose. Sometimes when we are talking about technique, you don't have to be coming up with, you find, oh dear, I don't have imager, I don't have this, and you start to panic. No, sometimes you can just take the word itself. What does this word imply? What are its connotations? What are the ideas behind this word? Okay, that is a technique by itself because the writer chooses those words for a particular reason. Okay, so the use of the word impose reinforces the there's an error here, Hanif's intention of forcing his ideas upon his father. Okay, so we are talking about the word impose, the ideas behind it. Okay, and then exchanges between father and son is vividly shown through dialogue, and it is obvious that the differences in view is due to the profit which centers around the issue of saving money. So here we are talking about the differences in view. Okay, and then we talk about what are the differences, what Hanif says and what his father says. Okay, thus the following two themes are evident. Conflict due to generational differences in ideas, because as a young man, he looks at it differently. As a businessman, he sees it in a particular way. And it has got to do with values as well, okay? The value of money and, making profits, okay? So this is how, the thematic element comes in, but it is actually based on an extract. And of course, the characters, through what they say, they bring out the theme, okay? So sometimes questions come out this way. Now, when you are writing about characters, remember that the author is creating characters using language, okay? So if, let's say, the question is about characters, think about the set of characters in a text. What are the characters like? Okay, in The Lost King, for instance, okay, they are all of different personalities, and they, in normal circumstances, they would not have got together. Okay, but here they have actually got together. What are the characters like? How is each and every one like? Just as the characters get to know each other when they are lost, we as readers get to know the characters as well. Okay, and how you know this? How do you know about the characters? What do the characters say? And what do they say about each other? How are they described? How are they seen by other characters? What happens to them at the end of the story? Now, character can be shown through the things the characters do. You analyze them for what they do. You analyze them for what they say, what they look like sometimes, and what they own. Okay, this depends on the story. Okay, this is how you analyze characters. Okay, we go on to, these are some examples which I have taken. The first one, for instance, okay, let's do one by one. Every cent saved is a cent gained. This is what Hanif says. So when you analyze based on this sentence or statement made by Hanif, you may come to the conclusion that Hanif is someone who is very concerned about profit, about making profits. That is analysis. Okay, so that is analysis of the character. Looks like I forgot. I shrug my shoulders and smile. Sometimes deception is necessary. This is a thieving daughter. Okay, this is from Thieving Daughter, and this tells you a bit about Katnor, where she is trying to get her daughter's attention by deceiving her. So we analyze her characters there. And the next one is about in Turning 30. Okay, Amma is telling about Alyong, and this tells you that Alyong is someone, this is the mother is telling about her son. So we know that the son is proud of his mother. He's not embarrassed being with her. And here we have Winter Hibiscus. What she is wearing tells you that she is trying to be an American. This is analysis. It's not easy. It's not enough for you to say that she tries to be an American. You have to support it. Okay, how does she show that she wants to be American? She puts on the attire of an American attire, and we know that she's poor because they bought it from the jumble sale. So this one sentence can tell you a lot about the characters. And this one here, we have from The Lost King. Okay, if I took off my cloak of invisibility. Now, this is an important phrase. Okay, by telling him to shut up, he would whistle harder. Now, this tells you about Peter King. Okay, it tells you about Peter King, and it tells you about what Peter thinks of Sully as well. But at the same time, we understand that Peter King is someone who hides what his true nature, that is the cloak of invisibility. So this is analyzing characters through what they say and what is in the text. And if you are talking about extract-based essays, these words will appear in the extract. It is easy for you to remember. But when you are talking about an open essay, it is important for you to quote as well. But you are not expected to quote, give so many quotes, because You can paraphrase the events as well. But it is important for you to remember some of the words and phrases and identify as a class activity which are the words and phrases that you can identify and remember and you can use for most of the questions. So this is some homework that you can do to see that you remember some of the words and phrases, okay? Now, we go on to writing about character development. Sometimes characters change, okay? We notice that Peter changes, okay? He seems was slightly undermotivated and not at all interested in outdoor activities. But when the time comes, he becomes the mature leader of the three other characters. Okay, so we find that he actually changes over time. And he really comes out of his shell, becomes a leader, he becomes stronger. And by the end of the novel, you find that not only has he understood himself, Peter King has also understood others better. And he has learned that he should not be judging people based on their behavior because there are things that he doesn't know about them, okay? And he discovers things about them. So this is about character development. So when you write this way, you are actually analyzing, because sometimes students find it difficult to know what is meant by analysis. Analysis is going beyond what is said in the book, going beyond that. What is cloak of invisibility, for example? What does it mean? You analyze that, you know, that he's afraid to show himself to others. He is afraid to reveal it about himself to others, okay? So that is analysis. And of course, writing about language, I showed you all in poetry. The elements of language may differ slightly from poetry to prose to drama, but basically we are looking at some of these elements in language. We look at similes and metaphors, which you also have in drama and poetry, emotive language, connotation of particular word choices, which you have across all the three genres, types of words used, dialect words, perhaps to show, for example, in Winter Hibiscus, dialect words are used to show the connection that Sighing has with her past. Sometimes you have long and complicated words. Sometimes in in drama, you have the person speaking for a long time. Why does the person speak for a long time? And you have sentences used, example, long and short sentences. Long sentences when people are trying to sometimes people talk a lot because they want to manipulate, they want to dominate. When you have short sentences, you are either afraid, the character is feeling uncomfortable, you know. So these are the things that you need to analyze. Why are the sentences short? Okay, afraid, not friendly, and scared. Those elements could come in there as well. Okay. Now, we are going to look at extract-based questions. I've got two extracts here for the benefit of those who are doing the different texts. Now, for those of you who are doing short stories, if I'm not mistaken, Gilbert School and Greenfield, right? You are doing short stories. This is on Thieving Daughter. This is the extract, okay? The extract is in two parts, okay? Analyze the significance of the scene to the issues and ideas in Thieving Daughter. Now, this is the beginning of the short story where she makes mihun. Kak Noor makes mihun for her daughter, Aisha. And we have this extract. So we are supposed to analyze the significance of the scene to the issues and ideas in Thieving Daughter. And for those who are doing Lost King, this part where, they, of course, they're arguing every time, but this is this argument, another argument between Sully and Bethany, and you have this extract here. Now, when you are looking at significance, now, basically, when you look at the word significance, it's importance of the scene. So you have to look at the scene, although you are discussing what is only in the scene, but you have to discuss the importance of the scene to the issues and ideas in the Lost King. For example, this is about, growing up, understanding each other. So this scene is where they are fighting. Okay, they are arguing. Okay, so this argument takes place all the time. But you find that Peter King is actually patient. Okay, and he's calm, and this is where he shows his leadership qualities, which is shown in the other parts of the novel as well. And it is about growing up. Okay, so it is an idea which runs throughout, but in this extract, we are focusing on it. So it is an important element because it is on the theme of the novel itself. Now, if you look at this one, Thieving Doctor, the importance here is that we know that the mother is making the mihun with so much of care and thought, and then the daughter ignores her. So that idea that the daughter is not giving her the attention she needs is captured in this extract. And of course, this is something that runs throughout the story itself. So it's the issues and ideas that are here in this extract. They are important because they determine the entire flow of events in the short story. Okay, so these are the two questions that we are going to look at now. Now, when you are given a question like this, what do you do for your extract-based question? Respond to the layout before reading anything. That means have a helicopter kind of view at the text and see how is it organized. So basically, you are looking at the layout. Are there dialogues there? Okay, how is the text presented? Are there paragraphs? Are there many paragraphs? Are there dialogues? Okay, so observe the general layout. You just a few seconds, just get the general layout of it. Okay, and then read for first impressions. Note down anything that strikes you. Okay, of course, when you are reading for the first impression and noting down what strikes you, you have the question at the back of your mind. It is not that you are reading it's not like any kind of reading. You are reading to answer the question. And of course, answering of the question is identifying keywords similar to what I mentioned for poetry as well. Okay, so when you are reading, what seems to be going on? What's the action? Is there development? And you need to know what happened before and what happens after for you to have an understanding of the extract itself. Where are the changes in the development? Can I divide them according to the changes? What is the author's focus? Character? Is it character? Is it relationships? Is it theme or plot? What is the focus here in this extract? Usually when an extract is chosen, it is chosen from an important part in the short story or the novel itself. Okay, they will not be choosing something that is not important, something that you don't have much to talk about. Okay, the extract, you will definitely have a lot to say. So maybe something else as teachers, you all can identify which are the possible extracts for the short stories and the novel. Now, which of these are relevant to the question? Okay, always go back to the question because that's what you are trying to answer. And then divide. Okay, what do I mean by this? Okay, identify and divide according to key ideas and events. Identify what is going on in each section you have divided. Summarize the key ideas. That will be your point for the paragraphs. Now, I will show you immediately what I mean. Okay, when I am reading, I sort of divide like this. Why do I divide? Because I'm trying to identify what exactly is happening in that extract. I may just start writing like that. It is, it is all right. But this is something that I feel makes me more focused, makes me understand the extract better and write a more comprehensive kind of essay. Okay, so the first part which I've divided, it shows that Katnor cooks with so much of love. Here we know about Katnor's background and flashback. Here we have a description of her daughter. Here we have description of her daughter's attitude. You see, there are different things being described here. So you have to look at this It's easier for you to know what is happening so that you can write a good answer, and you choose only what is relevant to the question. This may not be relevant to the question, so you can leave it out, okay, depending on the question. And then we have dialogue. Here we have dialogue initiated by Kak Noor. And then we have hoping for some comments but none. So she initiates the dialogue. She hopes for a response from the daughter. She's not getting one. And then finally we have her. She's upset. She's disappointed because she's ignored, and she feels bitter. So she says, my daughter is a thief. So when you divide like that and you sort of like summarize what is there, you get to understand the extract better. The same thing for the Lost King. I have divided it this way. And the first part is the argument between Beth and Sully, and Peter stops it. Okay. And here there is anger in Peter because Peter is, there is name calling here, but Peter remains calm. Finally, they plan something. There is a plan, and at the end of it, there is hope. Okay, so when you are writing, you can use these as your main ideas to make your essay organized. And when we talk about anger, where does it show it? He's angry. Okay, argument between Beth and Sully. What happens? Okay, so this is how you can find your evidence. Now, once you have divided and found the main ideas of the extract, okay, you have to look at the essay points. Okay, how are you going to look at the essay points? For example, Kak Noor prepares breakfast for her daughter with much effort. Now, when I showed you earlier, I had mentioned that. So that will become my first paragraph. My second paragraph is the daughter's physical appearance and attitude are described from the point of view of Kak Noor. And finally, you have paragraph 3, bitter feelings are evoked as a result of failure in getting a conversation going with her daughter. Now, these are the main points you have, but you have to understand that when you analyze, you have to talk about this preparing of breakfast for her daughter with so much of effort. What is the significance to the main ideas? Okay, it shows how much she loves her daughter, and she wants to put in the effort. She puts in so much of effort, but her daughter does not reciprocate. Okay, she does not respond. So that goes on to the issues that we have, or the ideas which cause conflict with the daughter. Okay, so like that for the paragraph, whatever point you choose, you may not choose these points, you may choose other points, but whatever point you choose, when you are analyzing, you must ensure that analysis touches on the issues and ideas. That is answering the question. Otherwise, you will not be answering the question. You may just be writing about the extract. Okay, for the Lost King, argument erupts between Sully and Bethany. Peter King remains calm and handles the situation. A plan is devised, and this gives hope. So you see, I have combined the idea. Argument erupts between Sully and Bethany. How is it significant to the issues and ideas? Now, Sully and Bethany, because they were a couple, they were a pair last time, they were an item, and they had broken up. They are constantly arguing, and this causes problems in they actually getting ideas together, or cooperation from Sully in getting things done. So that causes problems and causes them to be lost and so on. So that has got to do with issues in the novel itself. And Peter remains calm and handles the situation. And because he remains calm and handles the situation, they are able to get out. There has to be someone who has to handle all of them. Okay? So, and a plan is devised. So this plan gives them hope, and finally they do get out. Okay, they do get out, right? None of them dies there in the situation. So that's why it is significant. Now, when you identify the words and phrases, it can be, which are relevant to the point, can be an entire sentence if it is a short sentence, and this will be your evidence. You can see that here. And then you talk about, look at the evidence. Can you identify figurative language, metaphor, or imagery? What can you say about diction, grammar, punctuation? What is the narrative voice? Is there dialogue? You know, you find a lot of dialogue, conversation, direct speech, or direct speech in Lost King, as well as in the example I showed you. Is there a memory or flashback? Okay, is there a flashback? What I showed you, there was a flashback of Kak Noor's past, but is it relevant? You need to know that. And what are the effects of this? Okay, what are the effects? And let's look at thieving daughter. This is the point I had, and these are the perhaps the evidence I'm going to take. This is perhaps the evidence. What does it show? Image of richness, golden, okay, listing of the ingredients. It is a legacy, connotative. So it tells you that she's not preparing any mihun. She's preparing a mihun, which is Uncle Rashid's recipe. You know, it's like, it's such a wonderful recipe, and she's preparing it for her daughter. So when she's preparing it with so much of love and thought, she would expect something from her daughter, which is not. So that is how you analyze it. Okay, now paragraph 2, the daughter's physical appearance and attitude are described from the point of Kak Noor. Face is radiant and fresh and gorgeous, beauty and all that. Okay, and then you have the annoying habit, okay, adjectives, okay, negative connotative words about her attitude. Okay, these will tell you about the issues she has when she says that she has stolen, you know, she looks like her and she has stolen her youth and her beauty. What does that mean? It is related to the issues and main concerns of the story. And finally, paragraph 3. Bitter feelings are evoked as a result of failure in getting a conversation going with her daughter. So you have short phrases, you have rhetorical questions like, are you my daughter or a munching machine? That is an evidence, okay? The use of short phrases and rhetorical questions, that is a technique. What is the, and how would you analyze it? Okay, she feels bitter, she feels upset because despite all the effort put in, her daughter is not responding to her, okay? My daughter is a thief. This is another example, okay? All these are evidence. Now let's look at the evidence in The Lost King. Argument erupts between Sully and Bethany. Mongrel dogs trying to kill each other. That's a metaphor. Shut up, exclamation mark, punctuation, there is repetition. Okay, what does that all mean? Analyze all that, you know, the kind of arguments they have. Analyze the repetition. Why is shut up being repeated? Both will be saying shut up, shut up. It shows the tension in the argument, the conflict. They are constantly yelling at each other to shut up. Okay, what is the function of the punctuation there? You needn't take everything, okay? If you're going to zoom in on each and everything, it's probably you won't be able to complete it within the time given, okay? So you take what is necessary for that paragraph. If there are too many, you may leave out some of it, okay? Now, paragraph 2, Peter King remains calm and handles the situation. He says enough in capital letters, okay? Capital letters, it tells you that he says it with authority. And the punctuation, he raises his voice. An example only, yeah? Okay, paragraph 3, a plan is devised and it gives them hope. Take stock, nut out a plan. It's a positive action. They are doing something, okay? So you have the verbs and so on. And you have the listing of positives. If you look at the extract, there is the listing of all the positive elements, which gives you the hope that they are going to leave the place. Okay, so once you have got all this, okay, once you have got all this, you need to organize your essay. Now, how are you going to present your essay? Is it linear or topical? Linear means you follow the extract. Topical means you pick certain topics and you take For example, you may say that Kak Noor is upset with her daughter, and you may take evidence from the beginning of the extract. That means paragraph 1 talks about Kak Noor being upset. Then you take from paragraph 1. For paragraph 1, you take from the beginning, you take from the middle and end. And then you have another point where you take from the beginning, middle, and end. Okay, so that is topical. But I think a lot of students prefer to do linear in the sense that they follow the extract from the beginning until the end. It is all right to do that way. In fact, it is easier to do it this way because this will prevent you from leaving out points. Okay, now the possibility of leaving out certain things will stay in the topical part, but it's not to say that it's not that I'm discouraging you from doing topical. You can, if you have been doing, it's fine. That means you don't follow the sequence of the extract. It is fine if you have been doing that way. It is just that for those of you who are not very confident, linear method would be the best. And you have to remember, for the entire prose, you have 55 minutes to complete. That means section A and B. So I usually tell my students, don't spend more than 25 minutes. 25 minutes is the maximum for extract-based question. Okay, and then you leave about 30 minutes for the open essay. Similarly, for the poetry section, you only have about 40 minutes. So you have 20 minutes for each question for poetry. And for drama, you have another 55 minutes. Again, 25 for extract and 30 for open essay. So these are the suggested timing for your essay. So you can't be like doing something that, where you spend too much of time, because time is going to be your biggest challenge for the literature paper. I'm sure you will be, by the time you enter the examination hall, you will know your text well, you know how to answer the question, but your biggest challenge will be time. So you don't have to take so much and write it out. It is writing enough to answer the question. Okay, now coming back to this, how do you organize your essay for prose? You organize it using Petal as well. If you don't want to use Petal in organizing it, you can use it as a checklist. Make sure you have a point, you have evidence, technique, analysis, and link. Okay, so this is the introduction, what you need to do, and the conclusion. So basically, this is how your essay would look like. Just like it's similar to the poetry organizing. I'm not introducing something different for poetry and for prose and drama. The way you organize, I feel it's the same way of organizing it. It is just that when you look at it, it's a different genre, so you have different ways of looking at it. Okay, so basically this is how you go about answering the question. Okay, now time for Q&A on prose.
Okay, any questions from the audience or from any students? Probably they're trying to digest.
It's too much on a Friday afternoon.
No, it's actually not too much. It's actually for what we can see, very compact. However, when it comes to answering these short stories, especially, as one of the important thing is analyzing the storyline. Is there I don't know, because different students have their different ways of analyzing things. So I don't know, probably is there a safe method of analyzing, or is it okay if they are out of the box when it comes to analyzing?
It is fine for them to analyze and have their own views, because in literature we encourage that. As long as they are able to justify it with the evidence, it is accepted.
Okay.
Okay, it is accepted as long as they can justify it, and that's the reason why we are looking at the evidence. It's, after all, looking at what the writer has written and using that and interpreting it and analyzing it according to our understanding, how we engage with the text.
So as long as the evidence is found in the text, they are safe.
As long as they can justify it.
Justify,
Okay.
But
and then another thing is about
yes.
Another thing is about getting using quotes. I mean, like getting quotes from the story, for example. I think it's the same goes for the Lost King, Madam Pat, right? Getting the quote.
Correct.
For example, is there or are there any effects on the marks? For student score. I mean, for the score, if they are not able to give enough quotes or less quote, but mostly on their opinions of the text, is there like any effects on the scoring?
You see, when we are talking about an extract-based question, the extract is given. So it is about making use of as much evidence that is there. It's not that the student needs to recall or what, you see.
Okay.
So it is basically, looking at the text, and it's like, text forensics, like that, tearing it apart and finding what are the evidence, putting them together.
Okay.
And there's no rule as in you must quote that many or this, but I mean, it's just enough. When you look at it, is it enough? When sometimes you can't have the student leaving out something that is very, very important. For example, in an extract, when you are talking about, the last part where she says that, my daughter is a thief, for example. That is an important phrase which captures the entire extract. So you expect the student to know that, because it is a very significant evidence, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So these are the elements you look at.
If that's for extract base, how about the open question?
Okay, this is what I said for open question. It's kind of difficult because you can't expect the students to know so many quotes. But what we expect in open question is the student can mention the event, can mention, for example, but when the student is mentioning, if the student has done enough practice, the student will be able to, we encourage students to memorize certain words and phrases, not too many, but certain words and phrases which you can use no matter which question comes out.
So the plot is plays a very important role, that the plot, and then what happens, and then there are certain phrases that they must remember. If it's in
we would encourage them. I mean, it is about, they will still get their marks if they answer the question. It is about how much you want your score. Of course, as teachers, when we see those quotes and the child has quoted accordingly, we would find it that that it is relevant, because when you're talking about evidence, sometimes if you have the quote, it is easier for you to analyze.
Yes.
Without
because
the quote,
when we teach the literature, the small L, when we see students are able to quote and then put that in their answer, it shows maturity in their understanding of the question and the text. So that's what we want to make it clear for students. We just want them to be sure and clear that how they are able to score, I mean, in their writing.
We would expect them, as I mentioned just now, like the one about for the thieving daughter, and even cloak of invisibility for the lost king, for example.
The lost king.
These are phrases which automatically, and they are young people anyway, those who are sitting for exams, they're not as old as I am. They will definitely have good memory, and they will remember certain words and phrases which can come in for them to talk about evidence, something that strikes them and it is important.
So in a way, as we say, there is no right or wrong answer when it comes to literature. So as long as they are able to show their understanding of the extract and also the whatever story or prose that they are doing, so we go we score them accordingly. Then I guess, yeah, Madam Gladys.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, can we proceed to the next
Yes,
genre?
yes, please. Yes, we move on
Okay.
to the next one, the last part,
Yeah.
drama.
Okay, since I have gone through a lot of the techniques about how to go about writing the essay for poetry and prose, I will not be going in detail here for drama, but I just would like to point out some of the general drama techniques. Okay, what differs from prose and poetry is that in drama you have stage directions. Okay, you have the sound, you have the movement, you have the position, you have speech length, you have like, for example, Shylock in Merchant of Venice, it talks for a long time about, you have all these long speeches by Portia about mercy, by Shylock about the prejudice he has faced, and then in Flowers for Algernon, for example, you have very little being said, and you have all this, the speech is the pronunciation is bad and the speech is impaired. What does that tell you about Charlie? So these are important elements that you have to look at. What are the emotions when Charlie talks about his reports? When through Charlie's reports, you get to know about Charlie's emotions. So what are the emotions being conveyed in that? Okay, you have their speech patterns, and you have the effect on the audience. What you have to remember about drama is something that is supposed to be performed. Okay, so you have to look at it as a performance. When it is on, for example, Merchant of Venice on stage, what would be the effect at that time on the Elizabethan? When you're analyzing, you can talk about the Elizabethan audience. What is the effect then? Would it be the same effect now? For example, the treatment of Shylock, at that time they would have accepted it because of the community then, but at our modern society, will we look at Shylock the same way as they did? What is the effect on audience? That is something to look at. Now, when we are talking about Flowers for Algernon, for example, this is actually a radio play. So when we are looking at a radio play, we are looking at the sound system. We are looking at the mic cracks and breaks and all that. What does that, when he's fumbling with the mic and all that? And so when we are listening, what idea do we get? Do we feel sorry for Charlie? He's fumbling again with the mics. That sort of element. And as audience, we get engaged, as we are engaged with Charlie, and we feel for someone with special needs, because it takes the effort for us to hear him, or the time he takes to get something across. So the effect on the audience is there. And then you have asides which are said, and a soliloquy, what is meant by, what is the purpose. You have entrances and exits. Even when a person goes off, leaving the other person, it's what happens. It is a technique. When they come in, when they exit, all these are techniques for drama, and of course diction as well. And literary devices is dramatic irony is very common, where the audience knows what the other actors may not know. You have contrast, you have foreshadowing. You have foreshadowing in prose as well. You have mood, tension. These are some general techniques in drama. Now, I'm adding this. This is for all genres, but I'm showing how to add your textual references. Okay. Now, this is one way of adding it. In addition to this, Shylock expressed how he should not be treated any differently. So the quotation is put all together like this. And then the student writes, all these examples were used in repetition, just in different imagery of figures of speech. So the student quotes the entire quote and then mentions it. This is one way of writing it. Okay. Another way would be like this, where one sentence is taken, and then example analysis of it, and then another sentence, and then analysis. It's not all lumped together like this. Okay. So when you look at degrees of writing it, none of it is wrong. And all are correct. Okay. There's one more. There's one more coming. But this is something that when you're writing your essay, it doesn't flow so well as an essay, because you have got all the quotations lumped together. Here you have like you give a few, explain, give a few, explain. So your essay flows neatly. And the third technique, which is embedding, is something that I showed earlier as well, where a certain part of the quote is put into your own sentence. For example, Shylock replied that it will feed my revenge, in this case, like that. So it's embedded into the sentence. So when you are writing your textual references or your evidence, there are these three methods to follow. And if you are a student whose language you're really highly proficient, you may want to use embedding. Okay, you may want to try, but if you're not comfortable, you are doing it either number one or number two, it is fine as well, because those of you who are sitting for SPM, you don't want to be making last minute changes. It's not wrong, but it just enables the reading to be, the flow of the essay to be better. Okay. Now, creating cohesion within paragraphs and between paragraphs. When you are introducing contrasting points, this is for all genres as well. These are some of the ways you can introduce contrasting points. When you are adding similar points, these are some of the ways, phrases you can use. Or when you are speculating on meanings, you can use words like this. The phrase cloak of invisibility implies, or what, Mary's pot in Merchant of Venice, what does it imply, or what does it suggest? So you could use some of these words and phrases. Now, have a checklist. When you are writing, have a checklist. Essay structure, checklist for organization. As I told you, I do not say that, for poetry, they use this method, prose another method. I just stick to petal. Checklist for assessment objectives. That means you're ensuring you have your evidence, technique, analysis, and link. Cohesion. Do the sentences flow within the paragraph, okay? That means from one sentence to another, does it flow smoothly? This is the reason why I said the first method of putting in the evidence, it doesn't allow your sentences to flow well. But if you were to embed or to put one evidence and then explain and all that, that would help your sentences to flow better. Now, and then between paragraphs, how do you connect between paragraphs? For example, you can say, besides, you want to connect paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, you may use moreover, you may use all these, you may use sequence connectors, you may use logical connectors to connect the paragraph so that you know that all the paragraphs are connected. Now, and finally, the most important is, have I answered the question? Now, we will do for flowers and Merchant of Venice, we'll do open question. Let's look at one open question here. Analyze the role of Miss Kenyon. Okay, so when we are talking about the role here, the important keywords again, analyze and role of Miss Kenyon. So you know that you are supposed to analyze the role of Miss Kenyon. So introduction, just like the others, 1 or 2 lines to summarize the play, because this is not summarizing the extract, but the play, because it's an open question. And you just talk about this play is about what, okay? And then you answer the question. Miss Kenyon's presence, okay? Because the question is the role of Miss Kenyon. Miss Kenyon's presence in the play is significant. So you are analyzing her significance for many reasons. And these are the reasons which are going to be in your paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. And she supports, S missing, and she supports Charlie in the different phases he goes through. Okay, so you find that this is like your thesis statement. So this answering of the question tells the examiner what your essay is going to be on, what you're going to discuss in your essay. Okay, so paragraph 1. Miss Kenyon is a friend who Charlie can rely on. So that's your point, evidence. How do you feel? Okay, you are in good hands, she says. So good hands. Feel. So I zoom in on the word feel. The only person who's concerned about him, and she reassures him about the surgery. Okay, technique, use of diction. Oh, Charlie, and then she pauses, feels for him. Analysis, Charlie's only friend, as he doesn't have any other friends, though Joe and Frank do change in the end. Through their friendship, Charlie comes close to achieve belonging. Now, those of you who are doing this play, you will find it rather difficult to find, like techniques as such. There are techniques there, but not many. So perhaps you need to look at whatever that is there. You need to focus on that, and you need to focus on words, diction, and talk about this, just as I have done. Feel. The only person who's concerned about him, reassures him by saying you are in good hands. So you need to look at the words, which words you can actually analyze, because it is something that quite difficult for this play. But I think Mr. Gilbert, you can help your students with it. Try and identify evidence that they can use for the open question. But you can find that as long as you can give circumstances or evidence of things that happen. For example, when we talk about how she is there with him during the surgery and or after the surgery and so on, it also is evidence. That is also considered evidence. Okay, as a reader, we can identify friends like Kenyon. That's like link. And paragraph 2 represents true kindness. That's a role, understanding and care towards the intellectually disabled in society. Evidence, she says, I just hope to God, I just hope I wasn't wrong. You have the repetition of hope, doubting her actions, worried for Charlie. So these are some of the evidence. Okay, she's shocked when Charlie laughs at in the restaurant. Okay, stage directions you can bring in, and her quiet reprimand to Charlie when he laughs at the waiter. Okay, so then you say she's the analysis. She's a role model as she contrasts with everyone else. She models this kindness to the audience as well as the characters. She's there in Charlie's journey of self-awareness. As readers, we are aware of the treatment of mentally challenged. That's how you are linking. This is basically about how she tells Charlie about things that he's not, that how he is becoming like the others as well. When he laughed at the waiter at the restaurant, he's basically laughing at who he was at one time. And she makes him realize that not in a harsh way or condemning him, but in her own way. And of course, Charlie realizes that as well. So in that way, we find that her role is to also make him understand how the society works and how the society treats the intellectually disabled. Okay, so we find her as someone who shows kindness and also makes Charlie aware of it. Okay, paragraph 3. Through Miss Kenyon, we get to know Charlie's change in intelligence. She feels a little uneasy, considerably shaken when he is able to look at the book and know a lot of things. And then she says, you shouldn't feel bad if you find out some people aren't as nice as you think. Sentences like this, students can actually memorize them. But if they get 1 or 2 words wrong, it's fine when they are quoting up. And finally, when he refused to allow her in when he is going downhill, let me in, I want to help you. So these are the techniques, stage direction, short utterances, phrases, pleads, she's truly worried. Analysis, you have this. Okay, and then you have, okay, only someone close can see changes in a person. Okay, because he goes through the changes, and Miss Kinnian is the one who gets to know this. Okay, first person to see all the changes. And finally, restate what has been discussed but reword it. Miss Kinnian is the only constant friend that Charlie had. Personalize it. We all need people who will stand by us no matter what, and that's where your personalization comes in. So that is for flowers. Okay, it's an open question. And when it's an open question, as you can see, it's okay if you do not have so many quotations, but what I've given you is just the skeletal of the essay. Of course, you will need to add on a lot more and analyze and talk about the different words and what it means and so on. I've just given you the skeletal of how the essay can be organized. Now let's look at an open essay for Merchant of Venice. Okay, this question: how far does Shakespeare make Shylock sound vengeful? So the highlighted keywords, as you notice from poetry, prose, and drama, you need to look at the keywords. Okay, it's important for you to know what is wanted in the question. How far, meaning you are looking at, does he sound vengeful all the time, or does he sound vengeful until a certain time, but he does other times he is not vengeful, he's doing it for other reasons. So it's how far. You have to state that. You in your essay you have to say that it's vengeful throughout, and his only reason is that he's vengeful, or you say no, he's not vengeful in these instances, something like that. Okay, so your introduction, in 1 or 2 lines, summarize the play. Okay, it's what is it about, just summarize it and then answer the question. Then you go on to paragraph 1. Shylock had vengeance in mind when he asked for the bond to be signed. Okay, for example, here you may say, answer the question. How am I going to answer it? This is your thesis statement. So thesis statement, or basically a sentence which tells the examiner, this is what my essay is going to be about. Okay, so you can say that Shylock, if you decide that Shylock is vengeful throughout, or if you haven't really decided, but you know that, of course you have to decide whether he's vengeful or not, right? But some of you, as I said, modern audience, when I've discussed with my students are able to come up with examples when they say that he does not, at this point, he's not being vengeful, he is somebody who is just hurt. They come up with, as long as you can justify, you are fine. So example, answering the question, you can say that Shylock sounds vengeful through his actions and through what he says. You can have it that way. Okay, you can have it like that, an answer being that way, a general statement like that. Okay, so then you show paragraph 1.1. Shylock had vengeance in mind when he asked for the bond to be signed. So you are saying right from the beginning, he had planned it. He had vengeance in mind. Now, paragraph 2. Shylock voiced, past tense, voiced his intention of getting back at Antonio when he heard that his ships had capsized. So he had his vengeance in mind, you are saying, because he voiced his intention. So, of course, again, point, you need to have your evidence. Okay, he calls it a merry bond. How can it be merry spot? How can it be a merry spot, for example, about when he says that, when they signed the bond? And then here, what did he say to show that he's happy that Antonio's ships had capsized? Okay, and paragraph 3, Shylock refused to show mercy during the trial. Okay, and he said, here you have a lot of repetition where he says, I want my bond, I'll want my bond. He keeps repeating the bond. Okay, so those are all examples. So this is the point, and this is the skeletal of how the essay is going to be. And your conclusion is your personalization, where you mention whether you think he is being vengeful or not, how far he is being vengeful. In these points, I am actually saying that he does sound vengeful, that Shakespeare makes him sound vengeful, because that is something that the Elizabethan society would have accepted at that point. But then again, having said that, you as the modern audience, you may justify it differently by choosing words and phrases according to how you want to see it. Okay, and it is fine, because words can be interpreted differently. Now, if I were to compare Flowers and Merchant of Venice, now Merchant of Venice, of course, when it comes to language and all that, students may think, you all may find it challenging. But then when it comes to language and technique, it's so rich. It is so rich that you can find a lot of words and phrases for you to memorize, to quote, and techniques. It's full of it, your dramatic irony, your asides and entrances and exits and all that. It's really rich with all that. So where it comes to attempting an essay on Merchant of Venice, it is easier in that aspect. Okay. I have come to the end of our session. Now I would like to over to you, moderators, for question and answer on drama.
Okay.
Okay. I think the first thing that caught my attention was Madam Gladys, when you mentioned for Flowers for Algernon, there are not much for students to explore for technique. So if, let's say, I'm just saying, if students do not provide that part of technique, because the technique will be petal, correct? We are using petal, the technique petal. Mm-hmm. But if they do not provide technique, will that have effect on their score?
I said there's not much. I didn't say there isn't any.
I mean, not much. So it's not much. Not much.
So obviously, the extract that is chosen will have some. So definitely there will be some, and so they will not be penalized if they are, if you say they do. Of course, they'll be penalized if they don't say any technique at all. But as I mentioned, a word can be used as you can use diction when he says certain things, or when Kinian says certain things. When Charlie says that I don't want Miss Kinian to feel sorry for me. Feel sorry, you can take the phrase and you can talk about that, why he doesn't want her to feel sorry. That is already technique. So sometimes you may not have very obvious kinds of imagery and all that, but words, diction itself, what does it, and because you have the progress reports, you actually get to know Charlie's thoughts, what exactly he thinks. We get to engage with his feelings because, we know him. So those words and phrases can be taken as well. Okay, and sometimes when he, when he makes all those errors in the spelling and all that, it tells you that his speech is going down. Again, those are evidence as well.
Brendan here has a question. He says, Madam, embedding means quoting the character's dialogue in our sentences?
Yes, spot on, Brendan. Yes, that's the way to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So this helps if they forget certain words, they can actually, personalize those.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. They didn't remember the entire sentence. They just take that bit and true. Yes.
Okay, any more questions for drama?
I think for Merchant of Venice is very straightforward from what Madam Gladys has said, because they're full of techniques and language, diction, everything. So it's just a matter of students knowing all these and just using them in the right way. I think they're good to go with Merchant of Venice. So it's really straightforward.
But the thing about it is it can be complex with these themes and issues and all that, because it's something that yeah, in that way, I mean, there are pros and cons. Both, they have their advantages and disadvantages for both the texts. But whatever it is, when it comes to exam, it's just a matter of adjusting and doing what needs to be done. That's all. Answering the question, yes.
Yeah. I have one more question because I was drawn to what you said. You mentioned about the Elizabethan audience. I did share with the students that, as the years pass by, the way that the audience responds to Shylock, or they are maybe more sympathetic as we come
Yes.
nearer to our. So it's okay if they were to give their point of view, because they are the modern audience, right?
Yes, in fact, many of my students say that it is okay for him to behave the way he did, because after all, they treated him badly,
I see.
And he is somebody who is a victim of what happened to him. And, so, and they feel that he has been unjustly treated for his beliefs and his race and all that. So they view it very differently from the modern audience. Yes. So it's fine as long as they can justify it.
All right. Good.
Okay. All right. I think that should be quite clear for everyone, for the students especially. Yeah.
Yeah. So the girls are on the right track.
Yes.
I don't see much of questions coming in from the audience. So, Madam Patricia, maybe we can see where we go from here.
Is there anything?
Okay. Yeah. So at the end of it, my last words to the students is that know your text well and practice. It's practice, and knowing your text well. Read and reread your text, so that each time you read, you get better understanding of the text. It's not reading it once and then trying. You read it. This is a good time to read it when you're doing your revision. So as you do your revision, do read it and know it well. Thank you very much for your questions, and thank you for the engagement from especially the moderators and to all of you who have stayed on until now. Thank you very much. If you have any questions and you want to get in touch with me, here is my email. You can always get in touch with me. But always consult your teachers. They will be the best people to help you. Okay?
Yeah, I think since our webinar will be permanently in YouTube, so whoever wants to comment, leave your comments in the comment section, and then when we go through it, we will try to answer whatever questions that you have. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, anytime.
Yeah. Or we can also forward it to Madam Gladys, and she'll be able to help us on that. Okay, so thank you, Madam Gladys. It was really, really wonderful. Even as a teacher, I learned a lot, and I will definitely be
my pleasure
using these methods to help the students to prepare them for sitting for the mock exam as well as for the final exam next year. Thank you
and
so
also for
much.
Future students. For future students who wants to take up this subject, is a fun subject to take up, and probably many students are reluctant because they are scared when they hear, oh my god, English literature is they are scared. But
so
I hope that they just watch this. I hope they can just watch this webinar, and then they will have a better understanding, and then hopefully they are willing to take up 2206.
Okay. All right. So I think teachers and students who are here with us today, before you leave, make sure that you scan the code here. All right, that's in front of you. This is for a survey link. And there's another one for attendance, if I'm not mistaken. Attendance is before this.
Okay, let me maybe this is for attendance.
Yeah, this is for attendance. Okay, so if you're here today, please quickly scan, and then and students as well.
Yeah, I'm also scanning. I'm seeing like what is there. Okay,
I shall also do the same.
Maybe we just give a few moments for them to like maybe they can scan and then see what can they do from there.
Thank you, Deanne.
One of them is the survey, and then I think the other one should be the attendance. The last slide. The last slide will be the last QR code will be the attendance. The one on this page is for the survey. Madam Patricia, I think we move on to the next slide, the last slide, for them to take in the attendance.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, this one will be more for the attendance. All right, so we are very thankful to Madam Gladys for your time out of your very packed schedule for helping us out with this webinar. And hopefully this will be enlightening for all our students out there, especially from Sarawak, as there are only 2 schools of the whole of Sarawak taking up this subject. Hopefully after this, there will be more schools willing to take up this subject.
More teachers.
More teachers. More teachers. So for teachers, English teachers out there watching this, please, watch this and then have a better idea, and don't be scared to take up the challenge of teaching this subject. Maybe starting next year. Right, Madam Patricia? Hopefully we have more members.
Teachers, members.
Okay.
Okay.
All the best to everyone, the students and the teachers. It is a good subject to take as for SPM, and it's definitely a very enriching subject as well as teaching it as well. It enriches you in a lot of ways. So thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Madam Gladys. Thank you, Madam Patricia.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you. Have a good rest, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.